Although foreign policy was a minor issue for American voters, it has enormous consequences now that Donald Trump is set to return to the White House. At a summit of the European political community in Hungary discussing security challenges, French President Emmanuel Macron told fellow leaders to wake up and face the new reality to protect European interests. For more, we can speak with political analyst Alexandra Filippenko about what Europe and the rest of the world can expect from next year. Thank you for joining us, Alexandra. Now, among the immediate concerns for European leaders is, of course, Ukraine. Donald Trump pledged to bring a quick end to the war, but that could mean by forcing Ukraine to accept painful compromises, including a loss of territory. What's likely to happen then from day one of Trump's next presidency?
And first of all, thank you for having me. And I must say that it is already happening because the talks between Donald Trump and President Volodymyr Zelensky already happened, talks on the phone. And I must stress that Elon Musk was part of those talks. It's known that Elon Musk was in contact with the Russian government throughout those past 2 years. So this raises a concern of how Russian government, how Putin's government is now inside the Trump circle. Do they have someone in the Trump circle, in this case, if we can call an Elon Musk a person who can project Russia's interest. So now Europe is trying to gather and realize what can it do to counter this new reality in the United States. We know that the European Union and the NATO countries have been preparing for Trump presidency for the past year. And of course, we could hear champagne bottles popping in the Kremlin when Donald Trump was elected president. So now everyone expects Donald Trump to hit the ground running, not from day one, but already right now, because he's promised to end the war in 24 hours. And J.D. Vance, then the candidate to be vice president of the United States and now vice president-elect, have told reporters his ideas, his views of how this new peace would be achieved. First of all, this is a demilitarized zone, but a demilitarized zone between Russia and Ukraine on Ukrainian territory, at the line where two armies are standing right now. This would mean Ukraine losing a quarter or even a third, probably, of its territory. Of course, to Volodymyr Zelensky and to Ukrainian government right now, it is unacceptable. Also, another ideas of Donald Trump presidency is the halt for Ukraine to enter the NATO. Ukraine, of course, wanted to be a part of NATO badly. And now Vladimir Putin, exactly at this Valdai forum that you're showing the video from, said that Ukraine is losing army as never before, as never in this past almost 3 years of war, of the full-scale invasion, because war started in 2014. So now Russia is on the offensive. Russia is trying to gain as much territory as possible before those talks are finalized. But the third part of Trump's plan, first demilitarized zone at the line where two armies are standing, the second part of Ukraine not becoming part of NATO, but the third part that is quite interesting for Ukraine. Donald Trump, as J.D. Vance put it, would send military aid and weapons, way more weapons to Ukraine. So Ukraine could arm itself. This third part is, of course, of interest to Ukraine. But definitely the demilitarized zone is not what President Zelensky is looking for. As many times he said, he wants to get back to the territory, to get back to 2014, prior to 2014, get back Crimea and all the territory that Russia occupied since 2014. But right now, with Trump in the White House, it looks like it's not going to happen.
But you mentioned champagne bottles being popping in the Kremlin. Now, could Vladimir Putin now expect to come back onto the global stage after spending the last few years sort of being a global pariah?
Most definitely who he wants to do it. He definitely wants to do it. Recently he traveled to Mongolia, although there is an order by the International Tribunal, and Mongolia was supposed to arrest Vladimir Putin, but he was not arrested there. And definitely he wants talks with Donald Trump, not Donald Trump per se, but he wants talks with Washington. He said it many, many times. He wants to talk only to Washington, since Vladimir Putin, as we've heard it many times in his Russian language interviews, but in English you can hear it in Tucker Carlson interview, he does not accept the sovereignty of Ukraine. He does not believe that Ukraine is a separate country. So he does not see that he can talk with Ukrainian officials. He can talk with the president of Ukraine. So he wants negotiations with Washington as a partner of Washington. This is one of the things that Vladimir Putin is very excited about. He wants talks with Donald Trump. He wants Russia to become again a player on the international stage, and he wants to be seen as the leader of a country that is part of the international community. Of course, we know that President Putin many times said that the greatest tragedy of the 20th century is the collapse of the Soviet Union. And he sees himself as the continuation of the Soviet Union. He sees himself as a ruler, let's say, of the Soviet Union. That's why he wants more and more territory. He wants Russia to gain also that territory that Soviet Union had. So, of course, he wants to be part of the international community. He wants to be seen as a player on the international stage and as a major player that doesn't talk with President Volodymyr Zelensky. It only talks with the President of the United States.
Oh, just very quickly, Europe is not totally on the same page when it comes to this. It's rotating president Viktor Orban is pro-Russian for a start, and it's facing another possibility of a trade war with the US. How should the continent respond then?
Of course, I am in Lithuania, and Lithuania is on the front line. Lithuania is very worried that it can be occupied by Russia next, although Lithuania is part of NATO. So we see now more and more European countries turning to bigger countries like France and Germany to gain, let's say, military aid and gain some help and advice from the military side. But also a very important sign, I think, we saw from the Biden administration. President Biden is still president until January 20th. He is sending not military personnel, but U.S. military personnel that can help with the weaponry, with rebuilding of weaponry, with reparation of weaponry to Ukraine. So most probably Europe wants to see, and of course countries on the borderline with Russia, like Lithuania, want to see more military, German military, French military, and military from different countries of the European Union on the border. That what, for example, Lithuania and all the Baltic states definitely want to see more fortified border with Russia, because of course Lithuania and other Baltic states are really worried that Russia can move into their territory.
Alexandra Filippenko, thank you so much. That's all we have time for.